Normally, I do a summary of my last video, but I'm going to just get right into this because there's a lot that I want to share. New information, or should I say, new evidence against Watchtower, and more concrete evidence of everything that I discussed in the last two Saturn worship videos. So, the first video we're going to look at in connection to my last videos is if you go to the website, you want to look up this children's song called I Run to Jehovah. So one of my subscribers left me this comment from Andy, and it says, in one of the children's songs, I Run to Jehovah, I noticed that there are sixes that are used to define their heirs, but heirs of the soldiers are normal. So when you take a look at this video, so what the claim is that their heirs seem to be sixes, right? I mean, that's a pretty unusual way to draw somebody's earlobe, but clearly that's a six. And what they were saying is that only the soldiers seem to have normal heirs. So basically, all the Jehovah's Witnesses, for some reason, they have sixes in their heirs. So let's see if this is a coincidence or is this just another way they're putting subliminal sixes in children's cartoons? So you can clearly see that they do have sixes in their earlobes. For some reason, they drew them in an odd way like that. Now, this is what he was talking about. So, what Andy said in the comments is that the soldiers have normal looking earlobes. So, why? You see, what's suspicious already is that what people defending Watchtower would try to say is it's just a drawing and it's all in our imagination. Okay, well, if in this cartoon, for some reason, the artist couldn't be more creative than just draw a six as supposedly the inside of the ear, then why is it when it comes to the soldiers, they seem to have normal looking ears? So you see there's an inconsistency right away. So you can't say that it's just the artist. So why do the soldiers have different looking ears? And you can see it's a pattern. All the soldiers have normal looking ears except for the JWs. And as this person six is in reverse or facing the opposite way, that doesn't mean anything because actually, if you know about, say, Satanists, that they many times will put things backwards or reverse or upside down. So it's still a six, even though it's in the reverse. In fact, it may even have a darker meaning in the reverse. But as you can clearly see by this photo, that look at the difference between the soldier's ear and the witness's ear, right? Why the inconsistency? Now, to understand this, this is how subliminal messages work. You see, what they're relying on is that your subconscious mind that you're not aware of is going to read into these images. So, what they have to do to get the attention of your subconscious to brainwash you and implant sick ideas in your head without realizing they're being planted there has to be a distinctive difference. So, what they're banking on is that your subconscious will notice that the soldiers' ears are different. It's the witnesses that have these sixes. And it's the same method in the picture of the bread that I discussed last week, where you notice that in order for them to put this disgusting idea in your head, although the bread has to be normal, right? So they're hoping that your conscious mind won't even see it, especially if you're a brainwashed witness because it's food from Jehovah. Only the minors on the page have different looking bread. So that's what they want to program your subconscious with. So the other bread has to look normal to put that sick idea in the back of your mind without you realizing it's being planted there. And this is basically the same method. So anytime you see something like this, it's not a coincidence. This is how they have to add these things in. So why do the errors of the witnesses are sixes? So if you notice in this photo, for some reason, the witness in the middle that's being arrested, his ear looks completely normal. Right now, look at that. Now, I want to break this down to really understand how deliberate this is. So, for whatever reason, the witnesses have sixes in their earlobes. In this photo, they're showing that a witness has a normal looking ear and it's very well defined. So, why is that? But then when you take a look at another frame when they show this witness up close, it's a six. Now, what's interesting about this is that the photo on the left is from a distance. So what you would expect if the six is nothing is that the photo from a distance should be the one of a scribble pattern of a six, right? If Watchtower just claiming that it's just a scribble and is not intentionally meant to be a six, then the image that is further away should be the scribble six. And when you zoom in on the guy, that's where you should see the detail. But this is reverse. It's like they're playing mind games with you. So from a distance, it's very well defined, and then up close, it's a six. It doesn't make any sense. But even this right here can show you that they're playing games because it should just be consistent. If their errors are going to be a six, then it should be six. But it's like they're messing with your head. What I really want to look for when I got this comment is that I can clearly see that their earlobes are sixes for whatever reason, right? That's pretty clear. But to prove that this is more satanic stuff that they're planting in children's videos, the pattern would have to be at some point in this video, you're going to only see three sixes, right? That is the pattern. Now, as I've been saying in the last two videos, that Watchtower follows a pattern. So once you understand the pattern, you can spot this stuff easy. So if my subscriber was right that these earlobes that are shaped like sixes is this, if this is another subliminal satanic message, then what we will find is one frame where you only see three sixes. So for those of you who are my normal subscribers, what do you think I found? Do you think I found the same pattern that shows that this is a satanic, sick organization that's planting satanic, sick stuff in children's cartoons? Well, in this scene, right as they're showing the entrance of the Kingdom Hall, is where I found 666. Right. And isn't it interesting that this is the scene that they do in? Because I mean, what they're showing here is the entrance to the Kingdom Hall, right? So this is where they want to put that subliminal 666 in your brain. They want to do it for some reason at the entrance to the Kingdom Hall. But for further proof, for those that still don't really understand how subliminal messages work, the fact that this is 666, what makes it obvious in the way that they had to do this is if you take a look at the guy on the far right, and this is how you can see how deliberate the 666 is. Why is his air so extremely defined? Even more defined than a soldier. So the person that discovered this, that's a great catch if you're watching. But the part that was missing is that in a scene like this, suddenly one of the witnesses has a completely normal looking air, very well defined. So why is it most of these witnesses just have little scribbles of sixes, and this old guy to the right, he has a perfect looking earlobe? You see the inconsistency? So let me explain to you why that's so perfect. Now, remember what I said just before I showed you this scene, that what I look for is there has to be a scene which is three sixes to know this is deliberate. So to make it clear, so there's no mistake on them planting these 666s as soon as they're showing you the entrance of the Kingdom Hall, they have to define his error to such detail to make it clear that you're not seeing four sixes, you're only seeing three sixes. That's why his error is extremely defined, so that there's no mistake that when you're planting this in your subconscious, what you're getting is 666. You're not getting four sixes, you're getting three sixes, which is why his error is so defined, which is inconsistent with everything we've been showing, everything we've been looking at in this video. It doesn't make any sense, except for the fact that this is the way they're planting the 666. So, can anybody explain that tries to defend Watchtower or is in denial? Why is it that, again, the soldiers all have normal looking ears? It's only the witnesses that have the 666, right? And it's only when they show the entrance to the Kingdom Hall do they want to tell you 666. So that means something, obviously. But then you got these weird situations where they define the air so perfectly. So these are the little ways that they're letting you know, kind of in plain sight, that a 666 is deliberate, right? Either they should all have these sixes as air lobes, or none of them should have them, but you shouldn't have this level of inconsistency. So why did they put the 666 in the air lobes, especially at that scene in the entrance to the Kingdom Hall? Well, the answer is simple. You see, this backs up what I said in part one of what was found in Caleb's room. And I noticed some people were not really seeing the sixes, and it is meant to be subliminal, so it's not clear. But this just backs up everything that I said in the last two videos. You can see, again, it's a pattern with Watchtower. So if you have trouble seeing the 666s in Caleb's room and you're still like you don't really see it, well, the more of these things that pop up, the more obvious it's going to be. Because this is easier to see in the air lobes than in Caleb's room. So now I want to touch back on something I mentioned in the last video. So for those who haven't seen this last video, you're going to want to watch this first just to know exactly what we're talking about. So in the last video, I specifically showed how they wanted to give you this image of the 666 in the shape of a pyramid for some reason. And they even made it a point that even when they zoomed in on her face, they actually moved the sixes and kept the pyramid structure behind her head when it shouldn't even be visible when they zoom in on her face. So I mentioned for some reason they specifically want to show us these sixes in the shape of a pyramid. Now, one thing I didn't mention in the last video, but I'm sure everybody can see, is that this is not a normal pyramid, right? It's an off-centered pyramid. And basically, when you look closely at it, the three sides are different sizes. Each one is a little bit longer than the next one. So it's a very specific type of pyramid. And I didn't know why they wanted to show you these sixes and this structure, but I made it a point to make it clear for some reason they want to give you this image in the shape of this particular type of pyramid. So one of my subscribers made this comment. He says, is the 666 arranged in a 345 like a Masonic triangle? Right angle anyway, square. So you could probably already see where this is going. Is it a coincidence that of all the different things that this person related this particular off-centered pyramid, it just happens to be Masonic, right? I mean, is that, I mean, I almost don't even know what to say. I mean, is this for real? Like, could there be anything more obvious that it would just by chance happen to be a Masonic triangle? Well, let's see what he's talking about. So this is the 345 triangle pyramid. And as you can see, that every side of it is a little bit longer than the next. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole geometry of all this stuff because I don't understand all this stuff, but you get the basic idea, at least on the picture of on the left, that this 345 pyramid, it is what we're seeing in Caleb's room. Does this have anything to do with Freemasons? Well, this is a Freemason website. I mean, it looks like a lot of lodges just have their own, web pages and things like that. So when I looked up Masonic 345 pyramid, it came right up, right? So again, you can see that that's the pyramid that's in Caleb's bedroom and the shape of the sixes. And here's another Masonic website. Again, I'm not going to get into the structure of what all this stuff means, but you can see the pyramid in the middle, right? And that's the exact odd shape of the one on Caleb's room and the shape of the sixes. So I don't know if this subscriber is some sort of an insider. I mean, I don't think many of my subscribers would know right away that's a Masonic pyramid. So maybe he's an insider, maybe he is a Mason. I don't know. But this backs up what I said in part one. You see, for those that are still iffy about are those really sixes or are we seeing things, what are the odds that these three objects that appear to be sixes are specifically shaped in a Masonic triangle of all the organizations, right? I mean, of all the things it could be connected to just by chance Masonic, and then when they zoomed in on Caleb's mother in the Caleb video, they kept those sixes in the same pyramid, right? So, I mean, these are impossible odds, right? So nobody can say that I'm seeing things and I just made and it just by chance. You're not going to get that specific dimensions, the exact dimensions of this off-centered pyramid. That's impossible, right? So it highlights that they are highlighting those sixes, those planets that are designed to subliminally give you the image of sixes. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. So keep in mind, I am just trying to look up the 345 pyramid. I'm trying to look up more information about what it means. So I'm on another Freemason website, and as I'm on this website and I'm just scrolling down, just looking for the pyramid, what the hell is that doing there? Right? What the hell is that doing there? I mean, and notice what it says. The triangle came to represent the tetragrammaton or sacred name of God. I've okay, so let me explain this. I was raised around this organization. My mom might maybe go to the meetings when I was young, but I didn't get baptized till I was 32. I've never heard of the word tetragrammaton until I was 32 years old and became a Jehovah's Witness. And after I left Jehovah's Witnesses, I never heard this word again. Nobody uses that word tetra. This is Jehovah's Witness language. Have you ever heard anybody talk about a tetragrammaton and the name of Jehovah with those Hebrew letters? So, and this is on a Masonic website. Why am I running into this on a Masonic website? Right? And some XJW channels try to say there's no connection with Jehovah's Witnesses and Freemasons, right? No conspiracy, nothing going on, right? And the tetragrammaton, the even the same word. So let me just show you something else. So this is actually a rabbit hole that I peeked my head down before. I just never really got into the subject on my channel yet. So this is not completely new to me that the name Jehovah is used in Freemasonry, but I want you to just notice this one thing that I've highlighted on this page. It says Jehovah is of all the significant words of Freemasonry by far the most important. Don't Jehovah's Witnesses say the same thing? Don't Jehovah's Witnesses say the word Jehovah is the most important word in the world? So let me explain this, right? when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, and for those of you who are still Jehovah's Witnesses, why didn't they tell us that Freemasons also use the name Jehovah and that it's significant to them and that they even refer to as the Tetragrammaton, right? Wouldn't that be a perfect, what do they call it? Finding common ground, right? Remember the reasoning book and all the ministry school stuff? All about, oh, try to find common ground. Well, wouldn't a Freemason be the perfect return visit? Right? Why didn't they have us setting up carts in front of Masonic lodges, right? I mean, I was a pioneer, so if they told me that Freemasons also use the word Jehovah and it's important to them and they use the Tetragrammaton, right? I would have been setting up carts outside the Masonic lodges, right? Finding common ground. Oh, you guys use the name Jehovah. Oh, yeah, we do too. Oh, you use the Tetragrammaton. Why didn't they tell us this? Right? In fact, when we did letter writing, they never told us, oh, make sure you write the Masonic Lodge when we're doing our letters because, hey, they use the word Jehovah. So my question is to all Jehovah's Witnesses, don't you think it's kind of odd that they didn't tell you this? I mean, think about this. So we were told, oh, people for Jehovah's name, we're the only ones that, you learn the name Jehovah from us. We're the only ones that are teaching you the name Jehovah, right? We're people for Jehovah's name. Well, let me just explain this because apparently witnesses don't know anything about Freemasonry. Freemasons have been around hundreds of years longer than Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know exactly how long, but they've been around since like maybe even the 1600s or older, right? So, number one, the Freemasons have been around way longer, by centuries longer than Jehovah's Witnesses. Second, they're far larger than Jehovah's Witnesses. So, Jehovah's Witnesses claim that they're 8 million people. There's probably more than 8 million Freemasons just in America, right? I think there's probably like 30 million Freemasons worldwide. So you're dealing with an organization that's been around longer than Jehovah's Witnesses. They're bigger than Jehovah's Witnesses. They're actually more organized than Jehovah's Witnesses. And nobody told us that, hey, they've been using the name Jehovah longer than we have, right? That wouldn't have been that wouldn't have been common sense that we should know that so we could try to witness to them. So I'm going to explain to you using strictly common sense, 100% common sense, why they didn't tell us about this, right? And just let me just say, like, use common sense. If you're a witness, don't say, oh, the governing body didn't know. If I know, they know, right? If you're Jehovah's Witness and you believe that the governing body is appointed by Jehovah, of course the governing body would know this, right? So there's no excuse. And you remember the books Mankind's Search for God, and they pretty much try to debunk every religion that exists that they were aware of. So witnesses know what they're doing. There's no way that they don't know this, right? And having us believe we're the only ones that use the name and we're special. God chose Jehovah's Witnesses for people for his name, and Mason's been using the name since the 1600s. So don't be foolish and think that, oh, they didn't know. Of course they know. The question is, why didn't they tell us that? So based on common sense, I'm going to explain why they didn't tell us this. If they told us that, oh, Freemasons, they've been using the name Jehovah longer than we've been using it, and they know about the Tetragrammaton, right? Same language. Watchtower understands that if we knew that they were also connected with this name, we might start to put the pieces of the puzzle together on how this organization was founded, right? Who created this organization, right? So he's not going to just stop with trying to start a Bible study with a Freemason. If we knew that they had that same name and they've been using it, we may start to figure out other things. And this is why, like the plague, they've avoided ever letting us have any idea that there was another organization bigger than them that uses the name Jehovah. This is why, because they don't want the witnesses to get too smart and start to figure things out. That's exactly why. Right. So this is why when I was a pioneer, I don't remember once ever hearing, oh, write the Masonic Lodge letters when you're doing your letter writing. Right. I remember Masonic Lodge right in the territory, a couple like blocks down from the Kingdom Hall. Right. Nobody ever said anything about, oh, let's go there and set up a cart. But you see, this is why. What this organization has done is they've went out of their way to make sure that Jehovah's Witnesses know absolutely nothing about Freemasonry so that they don't connect the dots. But when we see the Tetragrammaton on a Masonic website, right, and then you got those XJWs that try to tell you, oh, there's no connection, there's no conspiracy with Freemasons and Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh no, none of that exists. And then they just happens to want to use a Masonic pyramid in Caleb's room. Now, the next thing that I want to address is so I got a couple of comments and I got a bunch of emails, and I've even had people text my personal phone who know me personally. And some people have said to me that when they look at this, what they see is the letter G, right? They can clearly see it's something subliminal. It's not a coincidence that it's in the shape of a pyramid and that they moved it behind her head to give you the image of a pyramid. But some are seeing the letter G. So I mean, what it is it's a planet that's subliminally made to give you a subliminal message. So some are saying that they think it's a G. So let me explain what I think about it being a possible G. And an earlier video, an older video that Marcy XJW had made the connection that the Denmark Assembly Hall looks like a giant Ouija board pointer. When I say Ouija board pointer, I forgot the name of it. Some people told me the name of it, but it's the thing on a Ouija board that you use to guide you to spell things out. So it's like the control of the Ouija board. So she feels that it looks exactly like the Ouija board pointer. So when you look at what she's saying, especially pay attention to the bottom curve on the left side, the way that it curves like that. You see, when you really look at the way that it curves like that, and even where the circle is on the Ouija board pointer, it does look like a giant Ouija board piece. And for people who are new to my channel and don't know what I'm talking about, especially Jehovah's Witnesses, we'll just look up that address at the bottom and you'll see that Jehovah's Witnesses built this giant Masonic structure, all-seeing eye building that now they're trying to get rid of evidence that had anything to do with this. So you could just look up that address if you're not familiar with what we're talking about. But anyway, so clearly it looks very similar to the Ouija board pointer. But then when you really take a look at the tip of it, there is no question it's meant to be the all-seeing eye pyramid, the same one that's on the back of the dollar bill. The individual lines at the top, the thick eyebrow, how they grew the trees in, and exactly where the center of the stage is, it's clearly meant to be this. But what I've come to realize is that when it comes to these subliminal messages, many subliminal messages are giving out multiple different meanings, multiple different messages. So it's just like regular advertisement. When they put subliminal messages in advertisement, certain things they do in those commercials have multiple different effects, not just one message. So on close examination, what I conclude is that it's meant to be both, right? It's the shape of the Ouija board pointer, which you can see at the way it curved at the bottom. That's what the thing is. But the top of it is clearly meant to be that all-seeing eye pyramid. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up, and just one more little fun fact about this assembly hall, just one little thing that I haven't covered yet, but I figured out is that I noticed that the Denmark Assembly Hall has where you see that half moon curve. It's got all these little spots that are different sizes. It's kind of weird that you see like the different sizes. So there's different ways to count it as far as if you count the outer lines or not. But basically, when I counted those lines in that half circle, it happened to equal 26. And the Ouija board has the alphabet in the same exact half circle curve with 26 letters. So why does the Denmark Assembly Hall have 26 spots that are in that exact half moon shape? That is another reference on the letters of the Ouija board. So the reason I wanted to mention that is because going back to all the people that are seeing the letter G, I think it's both. I think that when you look at this, it's doing both. It's giving you the image of 666, which is why there's three of them. There's specifically three because of 666. At the same time, it's done in a way where you can get the G clearly from looking at it. And the fact that it's in a Masonic pyramid, it also adds to the weight that this could also be representing G as long as 666. Now, in this video that I did titled Every XJW Must Watch Guaranteed to Wake Up Family Members, well, just for the record, I've heard of a couple experiences where people tried this method and it actually got witnesses thinking. So it's worth a shot, right? If you got family members that you're trying to wake up, watch this video because I've had good feedback that this method actually works. But anyway, so in this video, I had said something that caused a lot of kind of controversy, and it was really weird because it had nothing to do with the video was about, but it's just something I said briefly. And to my surprise, it was like a huge debate in the comments. So let me just play what I said, and then I'm going to explain why I'm bringing this up. 1992. And if you notice at the top left, the abbreviation, if you want to look up these awake articles, is G92, 122, page 24 through 27. Now, I don't know why that the letter G is for awake, because when you look up anything else in the Watchtower Online Library, it usually has the letter of what you're looking up. So if you're looking up the Watchtower, it says W. So I don't know why, but for whatever reason, if you want to look up the Awake magazine, it's under G for some reason. G apparently G means awake. And I'm not going to get into further rabbit holes on other organizations that use the word G or use the letter G because I don't know why awake is abbreviated with a G when you're searching stuff up. But anyway, so G92 is how you find this. So that's what I said. It wasn't what the video was about, but to my surprise, I got more comments on this video about what the G stands for than anything else in this video. So half the people were saying G is for Golden Age, and that's all that it means. And then some were saying, no, G is for Freemasonry. So, and I don't know why it stirred up so much like a debate about it, but like, I mean, go back and check the comments if they're still there. But so, and again, I respect everybody's opinion. A lot of my long-term subscribers have been with me since the beginning. They think the same thing, that it's just because it was called the Golden Age, which she's for. But I don't know why it stirred up so much excitement. But anyway, so I want to bring this up now because when people are noticing that the sixes on the wall look like they could be G, so I wanted to break this down and kind of end this debate on if they file awake under G because it used to be called the Golden Age, or if there's something more sinister going on. So I'm going to break this down undisputedly, right? So first, I want to start with the fact of you can see this is the Watchtower Online Library, and this is a 2024 Awake magazine, and it's still abbreviated with G, right? So even in 2024, they're still using the letter G for what a magazine called the Golden Age that didn't exist since like 80 years ago. But let me go into it a little bit further. So notice what it says here on the history of the Awake magazine. So it says the magazine was originally published bi-monthly from October 1st, 1919, under the title The Golden Age. Right? So notice it was in 1919, it was called The Golden Age. Then it says, or I'm going to skip down to the bottom of that paragraph I have highlighted, and it says, on October 6, 1937, the magazine was renamed Consolation. Right? So in 1937, I just want to make this clear, the Golden Age was done. It no longer existed in 1937, and it was called Consolation. Right? So the old name of the Awake is actually technically Consolation. It's not the Golden Age. The previous name was Consolation. Right? It was the Golden Age first, but the last name was Consolation. So it adds more mystery on if they want to call it an old name, why not call it C for Consolation? That was the last name it was actually called before Awake. But then it says on August 22, 1946, the magazine was renamed Awake. So I want to put this in perspective. It's been called the Awake since 1946. So now this says that Jehovah's Witnesses began publishing Watchtower Library on CD-ROM beginning in 1993. So, and I found a couple other websites that said 1994, so I don't know if it's 93 or 94, but I'll just go with 93. So, it's important to understand when the Watchtower Library was created. Now, this is before it went online, but it was the same system. So, in 1993 is when they created the Watchtower Online Library. So, now I'm really going to break this down, right? And I really want everybody just to really just use their street smarts, the common sense on explaining this. Why it makes absolutely no sense that the G is for Golden Age without there being some sort of a hidden meaning to it. So at the top, as you can see, in 1919 was when the Golden Age came out. In 1937, it was done away with. It was called a Consolation. It was not the Golden Age. So Consolation was the previous name, most recent. And that was in 1937. So 1937, it was already done away with the Golden Age. Then in 1946 is when it was called Awake. Now, the Watchtower Online Library was created in 1993. So this is where I really want everybody to start really thinking clearly about this. So I have these 7 questions, and I forgot number 4. So nobody correct me on that. I'm not perfect. I don't have to be perfect anymore. I'm not in Watchtower, so I messed up with the numbering. So I have 7 points, but it's really just 6. So the first point, and keep a look at that timeline on the top to make sense of this, is point number 1. It was named the Golden Age for only 18 years. Right? So keep this in mind. The span of when it was called the Golden Age was only 18 years. Back in 1936, right? Now really think about that. Then the second point is the previous name before it was named Awake was Consolation, not the Golden Age. So I already mentioned that, but the point is that the last previous name of this magazine, it wasn't even the Golden Age, it was Consolation. So again, where are they getting the letter G from? It was Consolation last. And then the third point I have is the Watchtower Library was created in 1993. It has not been called the Golden Age for the previous 56 years. So this is the part to really think about. So in 1993, they created the Watchtower Library. It was created then, right? The people who created the Watchtower Online Library weren't even alive when it was called the Golden Age. So why would they? And this is where I want you to really think. What would be going on in their brains to decide in 1993 when they're putting all this information and they're programming a Watchtower CD-ROM, they're deciding what abbreviations to use. Why would they in 1993, when it's been called the Awake that begins with A for the previous 56 years, why would they say, well, you know what? We're going to name it G because in 1919 to 1936, for only 18 years, it was called the Golden Age. So while they're programming to watch our online library in 1993, they're going to ignore the last 56 years it was called the Awake and then skip past the constellation name and say those little 18 years, right? That small span of 18 years, what was called the Golden Age, that's what we're going to abbreviate it under. That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Nobody can explain that. Well, please explain. If I'm missing something, let me know in the comments. But this makes zero sense. And everything Watchtower does is for a reason. And usually there's a subliminal meaning when they do weird stuff like this. It makes no sense. But I got even more evidence to give you. So the next point under number 5 says it has been named Awake for the past 78 years. Right? So it was 56 years it was awake when they created the Watchtower Online Library for the past 56 years, but now we're in 2024 and it's been 78 years it's been called the Awake. And yet they're still filing the new Awake magazines under G. And for the past 78 years it's Awake and they're still holding on to G for some reason. That also doesn't make sense. Watchtower is the king of revising things. These people revise the Bible, right? Talk about an organization that revises things and tries to keep up to date. If they update the Bible, oh, the Bible's got to be updated. They update everything. So why would they still be filing Awake 2024 when it's been why would they file that under G when it's been under the letter A for Awake for the past 78 years and they're not going to update that? Makes no sense. Now, then the sixth point that I have, which is really 5. So this is just another critical thinking I want you to use is that so Watchtower used to be called a Zion's Watchtower, but it's not filed under Z. So the point that I'm making is that when they created the Watchtower Online Library in 1993, they didn't say, oh, it used to be called Zion's Watchtower 100 years ago, so let's file it under the Z for Zion's Watchtower. Why would they do that? It's not called Zion's Watchtower. Right? In 1993, it's called the Watchtower. Why would they call it Z for Zion's Watchtower? It doesn't make any sense. And they don't. They call it under the name that it currently is. And then another point that I have is a more modern point. So the meeting workbook used to be called the Kingdom Ministry, right? So the meeting workbook replaced the Kingdom Ministry. For those XJWs who've been out of this organization for a long time, you might not know that, but the Kingdom Ministry was replaced with the meeting workbook. But if you go on to watch our online library, they don't file it under K for Kingdom Ministry because it's not called Kingdom Ministry anymore. So I wanted to make those points strong because when you look at the timeline, there's it's even hard to even kind of come up with any more words to say because it's so ridiculous to try to like make sense out of why they would be using the letter G. It makes no sense. When they created the Watchtower Online Library, it is only common sense. When they created it, they're going to abbreviate things under the letter it stands for currently. It's zero sense they're going to go back to 1936 when it was called the Golden Age. There's no sense to that. So, and please let me know in the comments if I'm missing something. I don't claim to always be right. I mean, when I make my videos, I make them with confidence because I'm bringing you what I think is correct. but I'm not saying I never make mistakes. So, I mean, if I'm missing something, let me know, right? But after breaking this down, I don't see any logic at all. Why would they would still in 2024 be filing it under G? The golden age has meaning to Freemasons. So, and there's a lot of different angles of it. It's not just one type of golden age that they're talking about. But let me just read a little bit of what it says here. So, the golden age of fraternalism is a term referring to a period when membership in the fraternal societies in the United States grew at a very rapid pace. In the later third of the 19th century, continuing into the first part of the 20th century. And the first example they give of this golden age are Freemasons, right? Interesting that that comes up again. So let me go to another article that's even more telling, right? This one words it very interestingly. Secret societies and fraternal organizations, golden age of fraternalism, 1980 to 1910. The golden age of fraternalism fell roughly between 1870 and 1910. The fraternal organizations were very popular. And again, the first example they give is Freemasons. Now, when it says between roughly it grew fast between 1870 and 1910, wasn't that the start of Jehovah's Witnesses? Right? I forget the exact year when they started, but they start in the late 1800s. Right? So you see, within this time that the organization started, and within this time that they made a magazine called the Golden Age, secret societies and fraternal organizations had some connection with the Golden Age around this same time period. So now going back to this weird behavior watchtower that makes no sense, could it be a more subliminal reason that when the Watchtower Library was created in 1993 and it hasn't been called the Golden Age in like 78 years? I mean, not prior to 1993. I mean, I think what was it, 50, like 56 years prior? So yeah. So when the Watchtower Online Library came out in 1993, and at that time it's been called awake for the previous 56 years, and it hasn't been called the Golden Age since 1936. Why are they still filing it under G? When they first created the Watchtower Online Library in 1993, why did they decide to go back to 1936? And the previous name wasn't even the Golden Age, it was Consolation. So this is just my opinion. Again, I could be wrong. I'm not making a big deal about this, but understanding how Watchtower operates, what I think is that there is a secret meaning why they use the letter G for awake even in 2024. And I'm not saying that G doesn't originally stand for golden age because I think that that's why they're holding on to that letter G because it's some sort of connection with these secret societies and a golden age that they were connected with when they were printing the Golden Age magazine. You see, there's a connection with their magazine, the Golden Age, and these secret societies. So I think as a bit of a like secret sign, there's a reason that they're holding on to that letter G because of the real origins have to do with some secret society stuff. And the letter G we know has specific meaning with certain societies. Now, the reason I want to mention that is because going back now to sixes on Caleb's wall and the people that commented that said they look like G's, I think they are G's and they're sixes. It's subliminally giving you the image of both. Sixes, 666, where there's three of them, and they are in a Masonic triangle, so that probably also is a G. And that's the same reason I personally think that Watchtower decided to keep their magazine awake under the letter G as a little hidden symbol, that that letter G has very special meaning to them and is connected to not their Golden Age magazine as Bible-based literature, but the Golden Age that they're connected to with these secret societies. So now I want to go back to specifically the last video that I did. So multiple people made this comment, and I'm just going to read all of them real quick. So one says, did you also notice that when she closes the locker for the first time, the other girl's lollipop is also Saturn? Someone else says, the lollipop looks like the shape of Saturn from the different angles presented also. Then another person says, the lollipop the bully is eating looks like Saturn. So let's watch the video again to see if they're correct.
Hey, Zoe.
Oh, hey.
What you doing?
I'm just about to meet.
Sophia. Why do you hang out with her? She's so
Different?
weird.
So as you can see, her lollipop looks exactly like Saturn, right? We're not seeing things. Three different people said the same thing, and I can see it as soon as I looked at it. It's shaped exactly like Saturn. Now, I'm not saying that lollipops like that don't exist. I do recall a lollipop when I was younger called a blow pop, which it had a piece of gum in the middle of it and it had a ring around it just like that. So I'm not saying the one on the left doesn't exist, but what I am saying is that it doesn't quite look like the ones I remember. But even if that one on the left does exist, they're again, it's a cartoon, it's not a real lollipop. So the way they drew it looking exactly representing Saturn. So now I want to show you how they subliminally are throwing Saturn in your face during this whole entire part of the video. So as I discussed in the last video, you can see Saturn in her locker room. That's the first, or I'm sorry, you can see Saturn in her locker. So as they're giving you that subliminal image of Saturn in her locker, as soon as she closes her locker, Saturn is in your face again. Now, again, this is subliminal, right? So you don't realize this is happening. And you'll notice that every scene, she's holding that lollipop very prominent. And every angle, you can see the ring around that lollipop. And when you watch the video, you can see that they made it a point to really put emphasis on that lollipop. Again, it's to affect your subconscious. So when you're watching it, you don't realize it, but they're making it a perfect Saturn in every scene. And even from this angle, if you look closely, you can even see the detail of the ring around it. They're making sure, even when it's far away like that, they're making the ring prominent. And even from above, right? I mean, is there a bird on the ceiling that's taking this photo? Like, why are they even showing us from above? Right now, when it comes to subliminal messaging, just keep these things in mind. So everything is for a reason. Is there a reason that they're showing them normal, like, and then for no reason they just decide they want to, like, if there's a bird with a camera on the ceiling, and so I don't even know why they're showing us this angle, or I do know why they're showing this angle, which I'm going to get into a little bit later. But even from this odd angle, for no reason that they're giving us this angle, you can see the ring around the lollipop, even from this far up. It's like they can't take the lollipop out of the scene. So now notice that when the girl walks away, they're still putting emphasis on the lollipop, right? As she's walking away, they still want to show you the lollipop.
Angela, please see me immediately.
See you later, Zoe.
And then as soon as she shuts the locker, now Saturn's in your face again. right? So during that whole time, they put Saturn in their face the whole entire time. Now, as a side point, I didn't have time to research it, but somebody left me a comment saying that that note on a locker, I think that's what they're talking about. So if you're watching this video, please let me know if I'm correct. But somebody, I think, said that that note says God. And I don't know what language that is, but if that's correct, if somebody can identify that language and confirm that it says God, well, then there you go, right? There's the proof, more proof that they're Saturn worshipers. That's why the only word, that's the only reason why they would say God there, right? You don't see JW.org in a locker. You don't see the name Jehovah. You don't see Jesus. What you see is Saturn and a note that may say God. And then other people made the comment too that the wallpaper in the locker is the sign of Aquarius. Now, again, that's just another reference of witnesses being the complete opposite of what they say if they got astrology patterns in her locker. But I didn't have time to look into those two things. But what I'm really curious about is if that note does say God or not. So now let me go into another comment that a subscriber made. So blah 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 260 says the overhead view of the kids in the hallway were standing in a pyramid around the girl. So I did question, why did they show us that scene like there was a bird now with the camera taking the view? What was the point of them showing us that above scene? Well, according to this subscriber, he's saying they're standing in the shape of a pyramid. Now, I normally don't do this, but every once in a while, I have to use these people in the comments that they try to come on my channel and they'll either try to attack me or attack my subscribers, but you can tell the real Jehovah's Witnesses when you see the level of stupidity with certain people. So, as my subscriber is mentioning, the kids are standing in a pyramid, right, around the girl. That's what he's saying. That's what we're going to look at. So, if you notice at the bottom, so this person comes on and says, "You have lost your mind." Right? So that's a direct reply to my subscriber, but he's talking basically to all of us, but he's saying you have lost your mind. Now, this is another way that witnesses will try to like gaslight you. Even the witnesses that are brainwashed will gaslight you. They never know what they're doing. But like ignoring all the evidence we're showing, they say, oh, you lost your mind, right? Like you're demonized basically, because that's what they think. When you leave the organization, that's the attitude they have. You lost your mind. So, and I don't know why people even waste their time making comments like this on my channel because I have the smartest subscribers. So anyway, I don't know why people will come on here and say these stupid little comments and think they're going to affect the people on my channel. The subscribers on my channel are too smart. But anyway, so when this person says you have lost your mind, blah blah 260 basically gives them a Mike Tyson knockout. So when they try to be kind of like sarcastic and try to gaslight, like, oh, you lost your mind? This is what my subscriber says back. Yes, the JW mind is gone, and please don't help me look for it. If you find it, throw it away, please. Thanks. Now that's a very simple reply, but when you look at the level of intelligence between the stupidity of the person that first said, "Have you lost your mind?" and the way that my subscriber articulated that thought, that's a Mike Tyson knockout. Now, because Jehovah's Witnesses like illustrations so much, I'm going to give an illustration just for Jehovah's Witnesses because they like illustrations so much. So you can look up the Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks fight. So in this illustration, the so-called apostate is Mike Tyson, right? Mike Tyson is the apostate, so-called apostate. And Michael Spinks, the one on the floor, he's the JW that tries to debate with us. So that's the illustration. And Mike Spinks was actually the heavyweight champion, right? So Mike Tyson knocked this guy out so quick that people were angry because they paid money to watch this fight, thinking it's a heavyweight championship fight that's going to be a good fight. And Mike Tyson knocked the guy out so quick that people were mad at Mike Tyson for knocking him out so quick, right? People wanted their money back. Now, I bring this up because the governing body tells you, Jehovah's Witnesses, do not try to debate with so-called apostates. They don't say so-called apostates, they say apostates. The governing body knows that if you try to debate with us, you're going to get knocked out figuratively. You can't debate with us. You Jehovah's Witnesses, here's the thing. You have no real knowledge. You've been brought to a state of stupidity, right? I mean, the governing body told you for the last 80 years that a grown man can't wear a beard and it's not Christian. At the same time, in the Bible teach book, they're showing Jesus with a beard. And you can't reason to say these people are making things up. You can't see the same book that you're showing people that shows Jesus with a beard, while the governing body is telling you, no, beards are not Christian. You can't have a beard. And then they can tell you just in 2023, oh, the governing body doesn't have a problem with beards. And now they have beards all the time. And just like that, like you don't even see how the level of stupidity that they brought you to when you can't even see what's going on. And then I heard that I heard in the January 2025 Watchtower edition or study edition, I heard that the governing body is now saying that okay, you can now have oral sex with your spouse, right? That it's up to what people decide to do in a privacy or at home, something like that. Now, I didn't read the article myself, but if that's true, if they're now finally telling you in 2025 that what two married people do in the bedroom is personal, do you see the level of stupidity? You Jehovah's Witnesses, you have no real knowledge. You have zero knowledge. You can't figure out when they make an article and tell you in 2025 that finally they give you permission to say what you do in the bedroom, what your spouse is up to you. And let me just give you another example about like this fake knowledge that witnesses have. You can't beat us in a debate or say anything stupid to us without embarrassing yourself because you have no knowledge. I went to Pioneer School in 2016. And then when I went back to Pioneer School about 5 years later, the book cover was the same, right? So I seen the cover of the Pioneer School book and they sent me like a PDF. And I'm like, oh, I don't need the PDF because I got my book from 5 years ago, right? And I had all my notes in it, right? So I went to Pioneer School and I took all this knowledge, right? Bible-based knowledge, right? I'm smart. I got Bible-based knowledge. Then when I went to Pioneer School the second time, I'm following along with the circuit overseer, and nothing is matching up, right? Then I finally realized that they changed the book. It wasn't even the same book. So let me just put this in perspective. So I went to Pioneer School taking in all this knowledge. Oh, I'm a pioneer in all this knowledge. And then 5 years later, the knowledge doesn't exist anymore. They revised it. The book doesn't even exist anymore. Then think about the elders. Elders go to school, you go to elder school, then you learn all this stuff about how to be a Christian and how to take care of the sheep and all this stuff, right? All this knowledge, right? You go back to elder school 5 years later and the book doesn't even exist anymore. What kind of knowledge expires, right? I mean, think about somebody that goes to college. Somebody can go to college and get a real education, and 25 years later, a good portion of the knowledge they took in is still valid. But with this Bible-based knowledge that you Jehovah's Witnesses think you have, it expires in 3 to 5 years. What kind of knowledge is that? You're taking all this knowledge and then the books don't even exist anymore. Now, I bring that up because you can't debate with us for that reason. In fact, the governing body doesn't even allow you, they don't even equip you to debate with us. They know that if you listen to anything we have to say, it's you're going to be like a Mike Tyson knockout. That's why they say, oh, don't look at one apostate video. Well, how is one apostate video so dangerous? They know one apostate video is so dangerous because just like Mike Tyson and Mike Spinks, one apostate video will knock your knowledge out of your head, your fake, brainwashed, Bible based knowledge. This is why the governing body says don't try to debate with us. And the same thing with the people that make these stupid comments. And one more thing I want to say about the stupid comments is that 95% of these dumb comments, I don't know if you people notice that make the bad comments, but 95% of the time you don't even get a reply. You ever wonder that? Right? We take the time to write something stupid on my channel, right? And you think that you're doing something, and then you maybe notice a week later, not one person has even replied. Well, the reason why is because you knock yourself out as soon as you step in a ring with us. Most of the time, what people say negative, Jehovah's Witnesses, it reveals the level of brainwashing. That's why people don't even respond to these comments because they make themselves look stupid. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack too much with this, but every once in a while when people come on and just try to attack either myself or my subscribers, it's like listen to the governing body when they say don't debate with so-called apostates because you're going to get knocked out. So going back to the original comment, so what blah blah 260 says is the overhead view of the kids in the hallway we're standing is in a pyramid around a girl. So let's check that out. So as I mentioned before, that I already thought it was weird. Like, why did they show us this view anyway, right? Remember, everything Watchtower does is for a reason. So I'm going to show you what I did. And if you want to do this, you have to pause it as soon as they go to the overhead scene, because only for like a brief half a second are you going to get this exact setup before the girl with the lollipop moves her hand. So if you pause it exactly when the scene changes, let me just show you what I found. So when I'm looking at the setup and my subscribers saying that they're in the shape of a pyramid, the first thing that I have to do is figure out, well, where am I going to draw my lines to see if it is a pyramid? So what I noticed when I looked at this photo is that this girl at the top, she has an unusual, very wide open, like where you can see her scalp, like a big like slice on her head, and you can see her scalp through it. It's just kind of weird because again, this is a cartoon, so sometimes when I add that type of detail, I wonder why, right? Why add that detail on her scalp? So as I'm looking at this pyramid, what appears to be a pyramid shape, I'm thinking, well, you know what? Maybe that's a perfect place for me to draw my first line, right? How about right where her scalp has that line? Maybe it's kind of like a reference point, right? So I decided to draw my first line right where it looks like her head is kind of like split open in a sense, where you can see her scalp. So then as I drew it down, and again, if you're only going to get this if you pause it as soon as the scene comes before she moves her hand. So when I started to draw my line, I then noticed, hey, just by coincidence, her hand seems to be lined up exactly with the girl's scalp. So I thought maybe I should stop the line there, right? Right in her hand. It's almost like she's holding her hand out to help me find this pyramid. So I thought, okay, that's where I'm going to stop that line right in her hand. Then I noticed, and again, you have to look very closely, but this character's foot is basically sticking out just a little bit, right? But her foot sticking out just a little bit happens to be lined up with the other girl's hand. So I thought, okay, where her foot is sticking out, maybe that's where I should stop that line, right? And then go back up to the girl's scalp. Now, I'm not making a big deal about this because there's more than one way to draw probably this pyramid, but just using the reference points that just seem to be laid out for me, I got another 3, 4, 5 Masonic triangle, right? Not just any triangle, right? Because the 3, 4, 5 triangle, every side is slightly bigger than the next. It's a specific type of triangle. So I don't know. Is this the reason why they showed us an upper view for absolutely no reason to hide another 3, 4, 5 triangle in here? So blah blah 260 was onto something, right? I mean, you can clearly see what are the odds that it happens to be not only a pyramid, but the same type of pyramid, the same exact type of pyramid that was in Caleb's room just by chance. Now, just to put this in even more perspective, so I want to keep this in mind, especially for those who haven't seen the last two videos. We're showing you two different Caleb and Sophia episodes. And when I say we, I'm starting to speak in terms of we because I'm really feeling that my subscribers are giving me a good portion of all the stuff that I show in my videos now. So I feel it's a team effort. So we showed you in the last three videos, including this one, two different episodes. So in the first one, Discipline is Love, Caleb's room is saturated with Saturn, and you have the Masonic 3, 4, 5 pyramid in the shape of sixes. Then in a completely different episode, you also have the saturation of Saturn and another pyramid. Now, how do you have these two themes that are coming up, these pyramids and Saturns, and two completely different episodes? You see, none of this is by chance. So going back to the original sixes on the wall that are also, I think, G's, it should be clear now that we're not seeing things when we say they're sixes. It's all subliminal. There's no way that this is all some weird coincidence. It's a specific pattern. Now, one more thing that I have to cover, and I really didn't want to go back to this because this is the most disturbing thing that I'd ever covered. So if you want to see more to understand what we're talking about, watch the last video. I'm not going to go through all this again. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the original person that sent me the comment about the bread, I forgot one part of the email that they mentioned. And what I forgot was something important enough that I felt I had to bring this up again to bring out something very disturbing that was not talked about last week. If you look at the large photo, everybody's eating their bread. There's only something weird with the children. But if you look at the girl's mother, this is a very strong subliminal message. It's very strong and you can see it and not just being denial about it. Why is she looking at her daughter in such a way as if she's training her daughter? Right now, keep in mind, this is not a baby. She's not like a toddler. She's just a little girl, but she can eat. So why is she looking at her almost like she's coaching her? Right? You can see it in her face. Now, one thing that I brought up in the last video that I do have to bring up just to make this point clear is that you can see they drew the little girl's upper lip to imply that she's sucking on that thing, right? The bread that's shaped like that. So while they moved her upper lip to make that impression that she's sucking on it, the mother's expression is like she's training her, like letting her know, like, yep, that's how you do it. Right. And even how she has her hand around her shoulder like that. She tr So now I'm going to spell it out. The look on her face and what's going on in this picture is like she's training her daughter to do sexual favors. And if you disagree with me, then please let me know what that look is on her face and in connection to everything else weird with this picture. Now, the reason I want to bring this up specifically is because Watchtower does not put subliminal messages in their stuff for no reason. Everything has a specific reason. So why would an organization put a subliminal message like this showing the mother as if she's training her daughter to do sexual favors? Well, there's only one thing I can think of as far as what this picture means is that this organization must be involved with child trafficking, period. What other organization would put a picture like that unless they're involved in that? Right now, again, that's just my theory, but if you can give me another reason why they're putting an image like this in a book about Jesus, let me know in the comments. But from what I can see, it must mean that they're involved in some sort of child trafficking. So this is the third video I did, what was found in Caleb's room and their connection and the connection to Saturn worship. And with every new video on the subject, it amplifies all the evidence of the previous videos with more evidence. This is in your face. It cannot be any more in your face than we already showed because they repeat it. They repeat the patterns. How many more times do they have to put Saturn in your face to make it clear they're Saturn worshipers? How many pyramids do they have to put in here with these weird shapes and other references to make it clear they do have Masonic connections? And from what I understand, the more that I've done research, I do not think that all Freemasons are bad. And actually, what I think, the more that I'm learning, is that you have certain lodges that are honorable, then you have certain lodges that may be corrupt and into darker stuff. And the higher up you get in these organizations, you really don't know what's going on. So I'm not implying that all Freemasons are connected to this stuff. But what I can see is that the dark stuff that may go on in Freemasons, as far as the corruption, the ones that are corrupt, witnesses are obviously involved with the corrupt ones, the ones that are doing this kind of stuff. Right? I mean, but if you are a Jehovah's Witness, don't waste your time making a stupid comment. You should really just take in this information and see the truth. There's a reason that the governing body tells you don't just watch one apostate video, because you will learn more from watching one apostate video than 25 years of being a Jehovah's Witness with their fake education that expires in 3 to 5 years. And they know that. That is why they're so afraid, because they know if you watch just one apostate video, you will get knocked out like a Mike Tyson knockout.
Keep those hands.
Tyson not afraid, as we expected, and Spinks ready to mix it up with
Michael Spinks has to keep moving because every shot. Oh,
uppercut landed inside, and Spinks went
down in a professional fight.
And he's down again and in serious trouble.
He's not going to make it.